Good evening. Now this is the news.
Hello, Chunky, it's the voice of reason.
Is for asshole.
See if we're live. We are live. Hello, Mush.
Hello, sir.
My name's Alex Belfield.
Hello, sir.
With your court report. This is the case of RV Alex Belfield.
Hello, sir.
At Nottingham Crown Court, coming next.
Donkey. A-R.
8 counts of stalking. Not normal stalking is how they described it on the first day. This isn't following anybody, going to anybody's property or their workplace. This is over the internet. They are 5 people who are from the BBC, and there are 3 people who are not. One of those 3 was previously at the BBC. What was said in court by Judge Saini. You used the words thousands. How many emails? I would say in excess of 5,000 emails.
Do you hear that? That was the voice of fucking reason, wasn't it? Now take that hand and slap yourself in the fucking face.
Thank you so much for joining us. We are back, and sadly, there is no time to recap everything that we missed in the last month, including multiple world leaders losing their jobs, sometimes after mass protests, like in Sri Lanka, and sometimes after mass government resignations, like in the UK, where Boris Johnson finally stepped down in disgrace, prompting this magnificent man-on-the-street interview.
Excuse me, sir. Sorry to disturb. I'm from BBC Newsnight. Just wondering what you think about Boris Johnson resigning today.
I want him to go. He's a pain in the arse.
Excellent. I mean, dirtbag English Stanley Tucci is perfect. From now on, that man should be asked for comment on every major news event. In fact, put him on Love Island right now. I'm so fucking serious about this. A new bombshell has entered the villa.
Live from Nottingham Crown Court, this is Alex Belfield, RV Alex Belfield, the Crown v me over 8 stalking charges. Today, witness Stephanie Hurst took to the stand. Tomorrow, cross-examination. Today, though, I got to cross-examine DC Percival on stand. It is now accepted by DC Percival that that tape was given to her by Mark Williams Thomas, the man who on Friday came to the court and told us that he was a friend of Jeremy Vine. He retweeted something that was controversial, having not investigated the tweet. The most staggering of all this afternoon, when pressed about the changing of the witness statement, the word help was replaced. The word should have been hello. I went backstage to say hello, and the witness statement was changed to say I went backstage to ask for help. But DC Percival, having been shown the exact witness statement by Mr. McGuinness from the prosecution, admitted that mistakes happen all the time.
Oh, you like her, do you then, Alan?
What man doesn't? Seriously, what man doesn't?
Oh, no, hardly any.
Exactly.
Stevie Wonder.
or Ray Charles.
Any blind man.
Yeah. She is the Ford Escort Cabriolet of middle-aged women. Sleek, petite, a little bit racy.
0% finance available.
It doesn't even make sense. But it's still funny, still surreally funny. Which is why we booked you.
Hello Chunky, it's the voice of reason for a Wednesday, day 13 at Nottingham Crown Court, RV Alex Belfield. 8 charges of stalking. Today's witness was Bernie Keith that began yesterday afternoon. This morning we read emails about my emails to the press office and to his management about shows he was promoting on air. Bernie Keith told the court that he gave most of the money to charity but did profit £4,000 from one show and £10,000 in Edinburgh that he gave to his producer and booker. Next, we heard more emails about the content of his programme. He suggested that his content was double entendre, whereas I broadcast with single entendre. After 2 hours in court, we got to an email that Bernie Keith wrote to a man called Ben Hewis, another of the accusers of stalking. They read that email out in entirety, and the final line read, "Shut him down." Mr. Keith, Bernie Spedding is his real name, Bernie Keith is his name on air at BBC Northampton, said he regretted doing it and shouldn't have said he wanted to shut me down. I was entitled to earn a living. This morning, Mr. Spedding also told the court that he feared, following these emails, that I could throw acid over him after a programme on a Saturday night, which he presented for the BBC. We later established that he wrote an email that was published by a man called Ben Hewis, who then apologised for publishing it, wholeheartedly apologising, saying that he'd never met me and my unprovoked tweet was not acceptable and the contents were unfounded. Later on in the afternoon, after lunch, we got back to the issue of the emails sent to the BBC legal department and to RPC. He responded that he was being represented by RPC and the BBC lawyers, even though the email that he had sent that was published by Ben Hewis was indeed from a private email from Mr. Spedding himself. He later told the court that he spoke to a police sergeant who was a friend and the head of Daventry Police who gave him advice, and that Nicola Kane and the legal team from RPC and BBC lawyers were representing him.
Power steering?
By the way, please don't text in. The woman/car thing is exclusively for myself and sidekick Simon. We're just doing that. What's that word you used?
Riffing.
We're riffing. We're jamming.
Yeah. Well, riffing.
Yeah.
Day 14 at Nottingham Crown Court, RV Alex Belfield, and we have Mr. Bernard Spedding on stand. He is Bernie Keith from BBC Northampton with special measures behind a screen and cross-examined by QC Aubrey. We began the day having yesterday had the email read in entirety, and these will be in the transcripts much later this evening tonight at 9 o'clock, because it was a very long day in court as described by Judge Saini just moments ago. We discussed videos, and in fact videos were played from Isolation Station and the Voice of Reason, following an anonymous email written by Mr. Spedding. He said in that email that I was a fantasist, I'm nothing, a sociopath, and he asked Ben Hewis, who I've never met, who published it, to spread the word and shut him down. I then sent legal letters to the BBC, who yesterday Mr. Spedding admitted were representing him via RPC. Emails read to Nicola Kane, and they confirmed that this afternoon that email was not sent to me prior to being arrested. It was not admitted by Mr. Spedding, the BBC, or indeed his lawyers, that email was actually written by Mr. Spedding. He said that I've written vicious lies. He said that it had destroyed his confidence and wrecked his life. They played a video where I called him an evil cunt. I said that he had destroyed my reputation and career by having Mr. Hewis print that anonymously, was Mr. Hewis had retracted and apologised for. Mr. Hewis, I think, is the next witness who also claims that I'm stalking him. 8 counts of stalking here at Nottingham Crown Court. Spedding denied breaking BBC rules by advertising his shows. His email said 30 times. We got into discussions about money. He said most of it was given to charity or his comedy booker, Rob Adcock. He then admitted that there was £20,000 to £24,000 made. Mr. Belfield's activities were stopping me from doing any further events, QC Aubrey said, but COVID had in fact stopped his tour. He said, Mr. Spedding, that he'd had death threats that led him to having security escort him to his car at the BBC. They were not alleging that those threats were from me. He said after all of this had happened, when I'd written to the lawyers, to Nicola Kane, to RPC and the BBC himself, demanding to find out who had written the email published by Ben Hewis, that he got a nylon rope and attempted suicide 3 times. He in fact said he Googled how to kill himself. He'd said his previous boyfriend had taken his own life in 1999. Mr. Spedding denied that he's unpopular and a bully, and said that when he made comments on air about fellow presenters, he was just joking. And when he threatened to punch his boss, David Holdsworth, the head of BBC England, it was just banter. He said that he didn't threaten him not to come in the studio. It was part of the fantasy he created in his character on air. He said that he had peritonitis, which landed him in hospital, and he said it was due to the stress caused by this allegation of stalking. He said the idea of grief for his listeners was what prevented him from taking his own life. In cross-examination this afternoon, he told the court that he had changed evidence from 2,000 emails to 4,000 emails, having had a text during the trial from a man called John Nibbs. He said that he was told the original number 2000 was from his BBC manager. The incident with a truffle that wasn't his dog's excrement, he said, had been passed on to me by a colleague who didn't like him, but he was popular, even though he didn't like going to the Christmas party and didn't go upstairs to the office other than on rare occasions. He did confirm to the court that despite being asked many times to confirm whether or not he sent that email that I said was evil and had been designed to destroy my reputation and career, he confirmed that he had not responded to any emails, either by himself, the BBC press office, or indeed BBC Legal or RPC. Bernard Spedding accused me of stealing private pictures, which were later revealed to be the poster for his Edinburgh show. He said he was so in fear of me, he told all of his neighbours of 35 within his village that they should look me up, and he gave them a picture of me in case I came to his village. He said every time a car pulled up, he'd take a picture of it. He was so scared that it could be me. He said I knew where he lived because his real name, Bernard Spedding, was on his company house accounts, and indeed that is public information. It was later revealed to the court. Mr. Keith told the court that he had Googled me to listen to broadcasts. He was sent videos of the Voice of Reason and Isolation Station, and said that he had Googled me to find out that during my 40th birthday I was on holiday in Miami. He said he did it because he was so scared that I might be talking about him. Towards the end of today, we found out that Bernie Keith thought that I was wired, as in recording him with external equipment, when in fact it was a mobile phone. When asked during a meeting at the Milton Keynes Theatre on a press night, did you send the email? He replied, no. We now know he had. He then said he went into a car upset, and he said to his producer, guess who I've just met? And she replied, Bradley Walsh.
You right, Alan?
Yeah.
Yep. Thought I'd lost you there. Away with the fairies.
There's only one fairy in here.
Yeah, I'm looking right at him.
Hey, you cheeky tit! This is great banter.
Anyway, that's not why you called. This week we're back at Nottingham Crown Court. Today is day 15. RV Alex Belfield, 8 accusations of stalking. This morning we got to cross-examine PC Ryan Rowe. I began by asking this man, who was the first man to approach me over the email that we talked about yesterday, anonymously sent by the BBC's Bernard Spedding, on air Bernie Keith. I asked him, why didn't you bring your pocketbook today to court? And he didn't know. He said he'd got his statement to rely on. I said, but the notes would be more useful. He didn't know what to say. Did you know I was a journalist before you came and approached me? I asked him. He said he didn't. I asked him what investigation he'd done prior to coming to talk to me. He didn't arrest me. That was some months later when DC Percival came round. This was the first inquiry. He said he didn't do any investigation. He'd been sent documents, around 100, from the BBC and their lawyers. He said I didn't give him any evidence. I then reminded him that he came into my living room where I got my laptop and showed him evidence. He said he couldn't remember. He said that the BBC had told him that they were building a big civil case, so I asked him, why is the police getting involved in a civil case? He didn't understand the question. Judge intervened for clarity. He said that the BBC had told him they wanted me to stop. That rings a bell. Look, here's a tram. This is very environmentally friendly unless you get ran over by one. They're very heavy, I hear. We shall wait for it to pass. All good things pass. He said he'd had communications with Paul O'Connell from BBC Legal. I said I'd never heard of him or corresponded with Paul O'Connell. He said he'd been building a case over 10 years. He closed the case, PC Ryan Rowe, on the 4th of April 2020. I asked him what material the BBC had sent. He said it was 100 or so documents that had been scanned and put on the system that were later handed to DC Percival. We asked about the statement that Mr. Spedding made yesterday in Crown Court, saying that he'd spoken to Daventry Police, not Northampton. I asked him about his comments to QC McGuinness, who only spoke to him for a few minutes, but he said that he'd warned me about my content, to be cautious about my content, my inappropriate content, and to regulate. I asked him what right he had as a police officer to tell a journalist who was in their private home broadcasting about this, and he didn't know. He hadn't heard of me prior to this, he told the court. I asked, why is a police officer doing civil work? I asked him again. He didn't understand the question. Judge again gave clarity. Yesterday in court we heard Bernard Spedding say that he had security walk him to the car from the BBC. He said he didn't know about that. I asked him, did he know that Bernard Spedding had said he photographed cars in his village in case it was me? He said no, he hadn't told him that. I asked him if he checked his tyres. Did he tell him that? No, he said. And did he know about his 3 suicide attempts? No, he didn't. I asked him what this had got to do with the BBC lawyers. It's a civil situation. He said the BBC were looking for a civil resolution. At the end of the cross-examination, Judge Saini asked him what he meant by civil resolution, and he understood, PC Ryan Rowe, that it had been resolved in a civil way, he told the court. I reminded PC Rowe that it's not allowed for 2 government agencies, the police and the BBC, 2 government agencies, to collude. He didn't know what I was talking about. He said that his senior manager, Mr. Mohammed, spoke to the BBC and was very happy with the resolution. He said that he had not interviewed Mr. Spedding, that had been done by someone else. I said, did you blindly believe the bundle? And he said yes. That's what happened this morning at Nottingham Crown Court. The case continues on Monday. Today we have the next witness, Ben Hewis, who published the anonymous email by Bernard Spedding that we heard yesterday.
Now, before I tie a belt round your upper arm, slap your vein and inject you with a pure dose of Genesis, I have to say I am being harangued into throwing my own hat into the ring for Norfolk's greatest person. So in I go. This is unbelievable. How Delia Smith can be within 1 vote of Horatio Nelson, it really is beyond me. If you want to vote for a food-related hero, may I suggest Turkey Baron Bernard Matthews. Bernard slays, I know this because he's a friend of mine, close to 7 million turkeys a year, which is doing it for about the best part of 30 years. He has slaughtered close to 250 million birds for your eating pleasure. Not personally, of course. The process is highly mechanised. No, Bernard's not actually wrung the neck of a turkey for a couple of years. And even then it was for a charity event. It's great to be around him. Depending on your point of view, he's either responsible for the biggest ornithological genocide of recent times, or he is the greatest farmyard-to-table strategist of the last 100 years. And I know this for a fact because he is my confidant, he's tantalisingly close to producing the 10-pence turkey. What a thought. He's actually showed me around his factory recently. And very, very liberal of him. He said, you can go anywhere you like, Alan. Apart from 1 room. He just stood in front of my path and said, don't go in there. I said, I thought you said I could go anywhere. He just said, just drop it. And all the love went from his eyes.
With the court report at Nottingham Crown Court today, day 16, week 4 of RV Alex Belfield, the Crown. v. me, with 8 charges of stalking. Today we have 2 witnesses, Helen Grimes, that's Bernie Keith, Bernard Spedding's boss at BBC Northampton, and Ben Hewis. Now, how these relate. So we found out last week, didn't we, that Bernie Keith on air, Bernard Spedding in real life, wrote an email anonymously that said he wanted to shut me down at the end. It was an email that I was quoted as saying was total lies that had destroyed my reputation and career. It was published by a man called Ben Hewis, who is today's witness. He published it anonymously by taking screen grabs of the email without revealing the identity, in which Ben Hewis is quoted as encouraging his 15,000 followers on Twitter to block because I am basically a dangerous person, as he quoted to the court. So he encouraged them to block me. That created a huge reaction, which you'll find out during the case today. And Ben says that he felt that he was scared and given anxiety attacks after I kept writing to him and the lawyers demanding to know who wrote it. So we began on Friday, actually, with Ben Hewis. He said he feared for his safety of his family after admitting publishing the anonymous email. He said he was scared of getting involved. He said he believed me to be a serious individual. Serious harm could be caused. He said he wouldn't send it under any circumstances to protect Bernie Keith, the author of the email. He encouraged people to block me, and this was the email that said they wanted to shut me down, as read out in court by Bernard Spedding last week at Nottingham Crown Court. He said he was terrified by my emails and interaction, and the reason he put a retraction, which was a full apology, he made an absolute full apology, saying that we'd never met, and that he retracted everything in the email because he couldn't verify it. He said he was terrified by my threat, asking him to retract it. That's why he did it. He said that I used a picture of his wife and baby, which was private, and it was absolutely gut-wrenching, he said, when he saw that picture used. During cross-examination this afternoon, he revealed that picture was his profile picture on Twitter and Facebook. One of the bones of contention, on Friday we were played a call that I made to him, just simply asking him to tell me who did it, and I would take no legal action against him whatsoever. I simply needed to know who it was. I used the phrase, I didn't want to shoot the messenger. I simply wanted to get to the author so I could sue them for the libel and defamation. He said he was taking legal advice. He later admitted that he didn't, because it was £750 an hour, and indeed he'd gone to a friend who was in the business. He was a theatrical lawyer. He said that I published and attached a baby scan. He later said through cross-examination that this was in fact published publicly on his Twitter, and I'd used it to identify where he lived so that I could put a report in to his local police station. He said he was unaware that that had happened. He said he feared for his family, but didn't tell his wife what was going on. He thought I'd been to his home address, but then later realised it wasn't me, as the description was nothing like me. It terrified him, he said, the notion that I had his address, which he said left him hugely distressed and having panic attacks. So maybe Spedding wasn't true, more convinced that Mr. Belfield was dangerous. Dangerous, the QC asked. Yes, he's dangerous. He said it was a prolonged amount of fear. You want the jury to believe that you were protecting your family above Mr. Spedding, the QC Aubrey asked. He said involving the police protected both of them, he told the court. Next, we moved on to the BBC, and he said that he was aware the BBC were building a case. Did you say they're building a case? QC Aubrey asked, and he said yes. There were several people that had complained. Portions of this were in Bernie's email. I wasn't aware closer to the time, he told the court. What do you mean by building a case? He says lawyers building the case of people that I, Alex Belfield, had harassed in the past.
Middle of the day? You bet. Middle-aged? Maybe. Middle of the road? No way. Tina, how can you put Horatio Nelson beneath Delia Smith? Now, there's a thought.
I think Delia's great.
Don't get me wrong, Deals is a cracking cook and a very attractive older woman, but Nelson masterminded the defeat of the entire French and Spanish navies before being shot in the neck and subsequently kissed.
Well, okay, but could he cook a good spag bowl?
Oh, well, you know, you're being humorous, which is fine.
No, I'm being serious.
Well, people only abbreviate when they're being jocular. You said spag bowl. Say the full words. If you're going to take this seriously, say them. Say it.
Spaghetti bolognese.
Thank you.
Finally, Judge referred to a video played in court this morning. Can I just confirm that you didn't look at the video live? And Ben Hewis confirmed, no, I was sent it by people on Twitter to watch, he confirmed to the court. So that is Ben Hewis. Next, we move on to Bernard Spedding's manager. That is Helen Grimes. She was asked by QC McGuinness when she'd first heard of me, and she said she was sent a post by a friend where I was ranting after leaving BBC Leeds. She said many occasions she saw Bernie Keith in tears. He felt he was not safe. He was sobbing inconsolably, she told the court on many occasions. Were any of the communications to you personally? No, she said they were always about Bernie or other matters and indirect communications. She said that I had a habit of emailing bosses at BBC Local Radio and blind copying in other managers. In January 2020, Bernie was bombarded, she said, with messages, emails from me, direct emails about Bernie Keith. Him on the email, it was a new scale, she said, from 2020. Apparently, she said that she believed it to be something to do with a complaint that I had about an email, but she wasn't too sure about it. But it hugely distressed Bernie Keith. She said that my emails were derisory and they weren't nice to read. How many? She said there was a large number. She said I deleted a lot. She said there could possibly be 100. She said, but the BBC haven't forensically looked for the emails. She said normal complaints are rare at the BBC. They're all mainly positive. 90% of complaints were from me, she told the court. She said regarding his small number of commercial gigs, theatre shows, she said that she was responsible for complaints at the radio station when asked, and his gigs were a process he was going through, she told the court. She said that Bernie had never faked letters and non-BBC work she said she couldn't recall. She couldn't recall anything.
What did you order?
I had the Thai fish cakes.
Yeah, that's right. Don't tell me what I had. I had the... I had... can't remember. You're listening to North Norfolk Digital with Alan Partridge. No, it's gone.
You right, Alan?
Bernie couldn't carry on living after my emails, she told the court. She said, I've seriously worried about him taking his own life. He talked about buying a rope. He lived in real fear because of me. She confirmed to the court she'd never met me. She said any direct communications, not anything other than to do with Bernie or the BBC. She was asked, how do you describe the effect since all this happened? She said that he talks about taking his own life all the time. His joy has gone from his life. He can't find any joy. Radio is all he's ever wanted to do, she told the court. She said that he didn't appear at the radio station's 40th birthday. He didn't want to draw attention to himself, and he didn't abseil because of Mr. Belfield, she told the court. How much time did this take up, dealing with my complaints? She was asked, "It has been overwhelming and time-consuming. It's drifted into my personal time. In fact, I told the BBC press office never to contact me at the weekend. It even crossed over into holidays," she said. "It's huge. My biggest issues." That was QC McGuinness. We then moved on to Mr. Aubrey, my QC, for cross-examination. Let's talk about the mental health concerns. When did these first arrive? Early on. Concerns from the start. His physical safety at the weekend was of concern. 2015. When his mental state deteriorated, he didn't mention he was a grown man crying in front of me. She said she was very worried. She said that there had been tears as early as 2015, and I couldn't give you a date, though, she told the court. Do you remember, or don't you remember, the date of Mr. Belfield first communicating? She said that it was from the very start of her time at the radio station, and it was in the handover notes from the previous manager. Criticism of work, though, wasn't it? No, she said it was microaggression, Miss Grimes told the court. Mr. Belfield was deliberately copying people in to embarrass Mr. Keith. People can criticise, though she said that's not of concern. People can criticise. She said, concerned about the email, Mr. Belfield was accusing him of something in an email. Did you speak to him about this? Yes, after the increasing contact. Did he tell you that he was the author of this anonymous email published by Ben Hewis, the witness we heard earlier? Yes. She said the principal concern was the aggressive email. All Bernie wanted was for it to stop in entirety. Did you not think it was important to inform the editorial department about the gain when you inquired with them about whether or not he was allowed to do it in the first place? She said she didn't think it was relevant. So that was cross-examination of Helen Grimes, Bernard Spedding's boss, Bernie Keith on air at BBC Northampton. That's what happened with your court report today from Nottingham Crown Court. Helen Grimes and Ben Hewis were the two witnesses. Ben, of course, started on Friday, concluded today. Tomorrow, we move to our final witness in the 8 charges of stalking. That man is called Philip Dehaney.
Let's wrap this up. I think it's run its course. We'll look at the results for Norfolk's greatest person. My hat's in the ring. Actually, I'm going to take my hat out. There it is. It's a tie, a dead tie between Oliver Cromwell and Horatio Nelson, exactly as I predicted. Why do I bother? That's rhetorical, by the way. Please don't text in. I know why I bother.
Okay, I've come up with a top 10 list of things not to say to a customs officer.
Time for travel update with Chris Gifford. Kippers, that's what I had.
Those are the headlines. Happy now.